Hey, what's up, guys? I know I talked before a little bit about squad rotation, but I want to show you a couple of other things that I've kind of learned over time as I've played Football Manager. So, as you can see here, we're favorites for this match against Vayala Tongan. I was looking here at our squad. So, our squad here is pretty big, just so you know. Like, you can see this right away. We have I don't know, it's not going to let me do a control A there, but if I select everybody we've got on this, we've got 37 players, which is pretty big. It's more than, it's not quite at the max that we can have. Max is 40. We actually have 39 players registered, but I've demoted three of them, sorry, to the under 18s. Ken Coulter, Afa, and then Loke are players who have not been playing very well recently and who are young, so we're going to stick them down there and let them cook for a little bit. When it comes to the tactics, one of the tricks that we have is trying to make sure there's enough time to play all these players and sort of have a look and see what they do. So I was just going through here today, and I probably should have done this a little bit more on camera. There are two things that I'll look at when it comes to a match like this. If we're in the middle of the season, I look at this and I say, yeah, we probably should win this match, right? We're in second place. The team we're playing against is in ninth place. All right, we've been playing extraordinarily well. They haven't been playing well at all. So what I'll do here is we'll take out some of these players that we've been playing more often, and we'll replace them with players who maybe haven't seen much game time yet. And so there are a couple of ways we look at this. First of all, look and see who hasn't appeared in a match. And the guys who haven't appeared in matches and who can start will probably end up starting to a certain extent, right? So we do, it turns out, have some players who can play defensive midfield, though they're probably better off playing as just midfielders. We have some guys like Peyton Milani, who we saw a lot last season, who just haven't started any matches yet. So we give him a chance to start here. He hasn't started at all so far this season. There's some other guys who are kind of new. Faoga, for example, or Dion Sione, who is a player from our youth setup. Who hasn't played at all, but who probably does have a lot of good potential. Ken Coulter is a player who we saw last season a couple times, played actually pretty well last season, and it would be nice to give him a chance to start as well. You can see all of these are friendlies that he's played a lot in the friendlies, and then didn't play at all when the real season came around. So that's one of the things that we look at. Another thing that I'll look at when we're looking at squad rotation and things that will help is the match load. So the match load, as I understand it, is sort of a measure of how often the player's been playing over the last 2 weeks. You always want to look out for guys who are very heavy. Try not to start them maybe so much, and instead give some chance to these guys who are light. That's kind of what I'll do when it comes to picking guys to be on the bench. So ideally, we don't want to have, it's probably good for us to have another striker on the bench. We don't want to have a whole bunch of players, though, who are playing the same position, right? So we have like two players here on the bench who are playing both defensive midfielder or midfield. I mean, it's all right. It would be better if we had some guys who can play on the wing. Roy Ledoux is a little bit tired, and we've seen him a lot recently. So we kind of look through here and see is there somebody else that we can play that hasn't played quite that often who might make it on the bench. I don't know. We can play it like Danielson on here, take off Chris Famuana, who's played quite a bit lately. Do something like that, right? So that we have somebody who can play one of the wings. Maybe we can put him the other wing if we want. Same thing with Peario, who's played a lot there on the wing. We probably should take this guy here, Amisome, who's the oldest player on the team and who's going to retire soon. We'll go ahead and put him there on the bench. He didn't have a great time in his last game, but he should get a little bit more of a chance. That way we have a bench and we have starting lineup that's full of players who haven't played that much and who are not going to be totally fatigued in theory. There's some other things you have to watch out for, though. The condition right here is another one to watch out for. In fact, we might end up making a change here and actually taking Fawa Danielson off and maybe putting Samulelu on instead, because I'm worried about that condition, and I'm worried about playing players who are just simply too tired, because your players are not going to play as well if they're tired. Another thing to watch out for here that most of us ignore is match sharpness. You've got some players who are lacking in match sharpness, and it's going to play out when they are on the pitch. And so we might not want to start Ken Coulter. In fact, it's probably a good idea for us to instead start Samulelu, even though he hasn't really played that much. And the reason why is because he has better match sharpness. He's losing sharpness, but it's okay as opposed to being just completely out of it. And so, as I understand it, now you might correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not the expert on everything that's Football Manager related. As I understand it, though, match sharpness has a little bit to do with the player's sort of natural fitness rating, and also has a little bit to do with how much they've played. So if you have these guys who've just been sitting on the bench the whole time, their match sharpness might start going down a little bit. One of the things you can do to help that is you can make it so these players are eligible to play on your other team. Now, we only have an under 18s team, so we're not going to be able to have every single player play over there. But if you go over here to responsibilities, I think it's down here in match. Yeah, you can click here to make unfit first team players automatically available for the under 18 squad. Again, when it comes to a setup like this where we don't have a B team, it's not going to help us that much. If we had a B team, though, that would probably be of great help, because then we would have some players who maybe can't start all the time, because we have, 37 players in the squad. There's only 11 slots here and 7 slots there, right? And then we could have some of these other players play even though they're not on the first team squad. You'll notice this too. If you go back, let's see if we can find this. Here we go. If we go here, you'll see emails like this come up from time to time. Now, I can't see this because the match was already played, but it will ask you about available players that could play on the under 18s. And then if you don't play the game in super fast mode like I have been, and instead sort of stop every time this one comes up and take a look at it, you can make sure that you don't have any weird things happen. You don't have players who are who you want to start on your first team who end up starting for the under 18s, end up ruining your plans. That will happen from time to time. The computer's not always that good at figuring out what it is that you're trying to do. I've had some frustration with that in the past, where I've noticed that players I want to play are suddenly tired, and I'm like, I didn't play them at all. And the reason why is because that coach made a pretty bad decision. And as you can see here, our under 18s team had a very, very large victory in their last match. So I don't think that they necessarily need all that much more help. But there's other things you can do as well if you really want to be hands-on with this. If you go over here up to responsibilities and go to match again, you can choose so that you even lead their matches, right? You can I think that there's a way you can choose it so that you are the person who is arranging. We should be arranging the. Oh no, I'm arranging that. I'm sorry. I think that there's a way that you can make it on here so that you're actually choosing the players who are starting on your under 18s or on your B team. So that's another thing that you can do if you really want to take everything into your own hands. I mean, you could do it. You don't have to, right? I find it easier to sort of work with what the game gives me and to try to put together a squad so that I'm not reliant upon 1 or 2 players to do all the work for me. Instead, there's a whole bunch of guys who could possibly do this, right? That's sort of for me at least, that's kind of the way that I would like to play. It's all up to you. I mean, the cool thing about Football Manager, again, is that you can customize this as much as you want. You can let the computer take stuff over if you really want to, or you can do it all yourself. You could do it all yourself and manage this team if you really wanted to. In fact, you can even go over here to tactics. You can change this around if you want and make it so that the guys you want are starting and the other guys are not. I've done that before. It takes a lot of time. It's a little bit frustrating. It doesn't always work out the way that you want, but sometimes it works. I just realized Ken Coulter is ineligible to play here. We might want to think about just completely releasing this guy, because I don't think I'm going to play him again. We'll take a look really quick and see what his form has been like. And I mean, you can see we haven't even started him at all. If we look at, let's see, can we get to last season? I'm not sure if it's going to let me get to last season or not. We can go over here to history and look at his career stats. That's right. Yeah, he only played 4 matches for us last season. We're starting him, I think, today. Anyway, this is what happens. You have a lot of players. You start forgetting who's who. No, we have him on the bench. Anyway, that's just sort of an idea of what it is you can do here with Football Manager to make sure that you keep your players fresh. Now, you do want to make sure you win all your matches, but at the same time, it's better if your players all have the ability to play. That helps with their happiness and helps with their managerial support. At the moment, our happiness is mostly good. There's nobody who's really that upset about their playing time other than Joe Coriati, who, when we look at this, he's been playing a little bit inconsistently. I think that I have told him, the agreed playing time is star player. We're probably going to end up having to change this. He's just really not been playing that well. We played him the last match. He had a poor match. you can watch out for things like that. I mean, I don't know if he gets really upset, then I'll just let him go, right? I mean, everybody else seems to be happy with their playing time, so I would not be too opposed to just letting this guy go, and he can go play for Pago Youth if he really wants, right? I mean, whatever, it's up to him. There you have it. That's sort of the thought that goes into it. Again, I recommend spending a bunch of time playing around with it, but you definitely want to make sure that you are actually moving your players around and that you give all these guys who have zero appearances for you a chance to show you what they can do. You'll be happier. You'll feel like you have a better connection with your team. It'll be a lot easier to play things, and you'll see for the most part better performances from players if they're given the chance to play like that. There you go. Talk to you later. Bye bye.